going to say, I talked to the, I'm no biologist, but I talked to a couple deer biologists, and the one said, oh yeah, that the non-typical antler on the opposite side of the leg injury is neurological, it's common, but I just thought it was once, non-typical, it always, once he had the injury, it was going to be
I would
always.
too.
But he said no, that once the thing healed, it will go back to typical. So the deer can go from typical to then have the leg injury, go non-typical the next year, and then go back after the wound heals and go back to typical again, that's exactly what happened on this buck.
Be back in Michigan,
But,
and not entirely all the time, but our deer just won't live that long.
yeah, right. Well, you got so many hunters and stuff.
Gosh,
But,
there's things are changing slightly. Some areas improving, some not so much. In the UP, where my one camp is at, it's really tough to have any long-term expectations. We have to wait. There's two types of tag systems. There's a combo tag. You can buy two tags. You can use two tags, bow, gun, whatever, or you can buy a single gun tag. The single gun tag has to be 3 or more on one side. Is it 3 or more or 4 or more on one side in the UP now? I think that's a new rule this year. The combo, the first tag has to be 3, I think it is, and then the second one. A little bit of management there, but we have such rough winters up there, and we got to, if you look at the winters as being part of the predation issue. We
It's
have
a constant
the wolf,
battle.
and the coyote, and the biggest predation is probably the hunters, but
poaching.
yeah, a little of that too. Yeah,
Okay.
the UP.
Okay.
Yeah, UP is a kind of a different animal. It's its own. The land of superior, as a lot of people call them. But beautiful area, but you can lose 50% of your deer herd in a winter if it's that bad. They migrate to a common area, in a yard area, which in the lower peninsula they don't do it so much. There'll be 300 deer that'll hit that cedar swamp, and it's kind of a catch-22. Do we want to, from a biology standpoint, and I'm not one either, but they say, hey, you want the deer herd up, but how about the browse? They go in there and over browse. And cedars don't generate that fast. What happens next year? So it's a balancing act, and it's teetering on the edge. So we had a couple rough winters, 3 rough winters. Last year wasn't so bad for the eastern end of the UP, and saw some improvement. Gee whiz, some double fawns, which we just don't see up there. But you look at mom with 2 little fawns, you think, man, you got a job on your hands, young lady, because there's wolves. Just
This sucker dry too,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just it's so stressful. So the deer, we noticed here. I'm not saying it's easier hunting, but I'm going to say it's easier hunting for one thing. Just easier for this one thing: the deer reaction for scent, everything. In the UP, I'm not saying it's that much harder, but you think something wrong. They've read you. They'll pick you up, and they are just on edge, which has got to be a stressful thing, which isn't good for the overall health of the herd. But they don't forgive you for anything. If the wind isn't in your favor, none of them will forgive you, for one thing. If you were sitting there and guys taking their safeties off. So when I have a couple of groups coming in November, and I've had to back up our stands just a little bit more because they're not going to forgive you. They're going to vacate the area because something's after them all the time. So it's
You
just
gotta
it's
hand
that
it
big
to 'em,
timber.
It's like I said, when you have, again, I know this timber better than anybody. That's all I do is, is study it and watch them and think, and I spend more hours in, I should, in the middle of it and stuff. But you get to watch the animals on a, whatever you want to say, a daily basis, and I know that buck, what he was last year and who his father probably was, and and then still with the trail cameras, you'll get pictures of deer like one time, and he's there, or he moved in from miles away, and he was here and now he's gone, but like, where'd he come from?
Yeah.
You know, or which one's he?
All of a sudden,
you know,
he
yeah,
popped
right.
in
And
your-
at this time of year, again, I'm convinced that, you know, has a lot to do with, you know, perpetuation of the species,
Mhm.
you know, and no interbreeding and
Mhm.
stuff. So deer that you lose, that, you know, where'd he go to? You got him patterned out. You think you got him patterned out, and all of a sudden you don't see him for a month, and you think, oh, he got bumped off or hit by a truck or whatever, and you
Bang,
know, and then you
and
know,
he
and then
reappears.
there he is. You know,
Yeah.
where's he been? You know,
Yeah.
type of thing. You know, so
Yeah.
you can't convince me. When we hunted in Montana, there was one non-typical that, well, one of our hunters ended up getting it, and it scored. Was it 213? I think it was. So
Hmm.
big non-typical. But anyway, that year,
Wow.
I
Hard to imagine.
I saw him, that non-typical. I hunted there every day from what I think the season opened September 5th. You know, from September to November, never saw the animal until between, I think it was November 10th and Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Say 2 weeks. You know, I saw him 10 times
Wow.
in 2 weeks. Now, you can't convince me that I was there all of September,
Yeah.
all of October, and half of November, you know, and I see him 10 times in 2 weeks and never saw him in 2.5 months. A deer wasn't there. And I'm
Right.
sure what it was, he was bedded out in the prairie with
Mhm.
his, in some little coulee with his chin on the ground, you know, and then come November 10th, that's all the does are
Mhm.
down in the river, all the moisture and the river bottoms there and all the lush vegetation, and you know, so that's where the does are, and he comes down and, you know, pushing does, and
Yeah.
hey, I think I'll stay, you know, and he'll
Yeah.
stay for a couple weeks or
Yeah.
a month or whatever, you know, so
Yeah.
at any rate, you know, it's you have deer that disappear and never come back. You have deer that, you know, show up, and where'd he come from? So it
Mhm.
all washes out and
Yeah.
stuff, you know. But it's you got to hand it when you see a buck, especially if you get one with multiple, where you got 10, 12, 15 trail camera pictures of them and never lay eyes on them. I mean, you got to be kidding, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive, you know.
Yeah.
That they're right there, type of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was talking to my contact, Bill. He's from Michigan. He's from Holland, Michigan, and he's in contact with the farmer. And I call him a leasing agent. I don't know if that's the proper term. Bill works and lives with his family. He's probably, I'm going to say, middle 30s, a young guy. And
Mm-hmm.
but his connections back here, he has some of his own property, him and another buddy, and they love to hunt their own. And then he has some that he sets aside just for him and his buddy to hunt. And then he has some that he has some guys coming in and hunt. And he reserved 3 spots for us, 5 guys. I wasn't hunting, so there's 4, Ross and some 3 others. And then he connects up with the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not having a real good grasp of that from my perspective, and I'm kind of used to that in some northern Ontario on, which is much different than the UP.
Mm-hmm.
Just these pinch points, these draws, these
Mm-hmm.
dry creek bottoms, river bottoms, and so he sends me some maps, and I'm looking at that thinking, boy, there's not much hunting.
You said what?
Not much hunting space there.
Oh yeah, good.
You start walking, you know, holy smokes, you know, there's a ton of it.
Mm-hmm.
And but
You can't
it's
tell. I mean, a lot of
whole
these.
different. I told Ross, I said, my scouting skills are average at best, anyways, back home.
Mm-hmm.
Out here, they're going to be likely kindergarten, if I'm lucky, only because of simplistic deer behavior. I think we understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Pinch point's a pinch point's a pinch point, but
Mm-hmm.
you come out here and you catch on, but he had us going to a couple spots, and I thought, one was his,
Mm-hmm.
and he saw a lot of deer.
Mm-hmm.
This morning we saw, it was probably it was a small 8 point. I was happy, watched him make a scrape, and I was dinking around. I bumped the darn camera on the blind, and so he looked up, and I thought, I don't care. We had this in mind, and we were about ready to bug out anyways, and I mean, he walked away, and he kept looking over his shoulder like, hey, nice to see us, guys, I thought, back at home, we'd be lucky to even see that, and he,
Really? Yeah.
bink, gone.
Yeah.
But the terrain is so much different, that influence of the crops.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got agriculture back in Michigan, but
You also, I
boy,
mean, I've got
just nothing like this.
the air. You have to put boots on the ground. I mean, as I said, I got guys all the time, all over the United States. They'll be sending me maps and with
Yeah.
and basically the outline, and where should I put my tree stand? Well, and I wish I could do it, but there's so many things. I mean, with like even the aerial photos, you can't tell.
No.
Is that tree line? Are those softwoods or hardwoods?
Right.
Is that slight? I'm talking a foot or two of elevation
Right.
change. That lines up with that over there, and meaning that tree there is nowhere near as good as this one here because of the angles or the light intensity. You can't tell that
No.
stuff. You need to go out there and spend the time
Yeah.
in the field and
Yeah.
stuff. And I used to, when I was younger, I could run through these properties and
That's okay. Oh, absolutely. I bumped this goofy thing, but that's all right. We're good. Still
Okay,
on red
okay.
record. Yep. It was a charged up battery, so we're.
Slide to unlock, missed FaceTime call. What the hell?
It's called call screening.
Yeah, but it says connecting, and then it didn't connect.
Remember, Ross is here. If there's any bad luck to be had, he brought it.
Nah, she had some tests, some blood urine tests yesterday.
Okay.
I don't know, I think
Yep.
See, I don't get this yet. I mean, why did she call me?
She might be leaving a message right now, but usually that pops up that she has an incoming call. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but